Hey, Remote Pilot 101, Jason here. It's a fact. You gotta know a lot about airspace for your Part 107 test, and airspace is so challenging. And it's not just on the test, by the way. This is something that's gonna carry out in all your real world operations. Remember, our mission here, yes, you're gonna pass your test with flying colors, but what is our mission? Our mission is to make you that safe, real world operator. That is what we're truly after with all of this. So I want to play you a clip from our brand new version 3 of our Remote Pilot 101 course that lives inside our new learning management system housed on m0a.com, utilizing the aviation mastery method. I realize that's a lot to explain. Let's just play the clip and it will all make sense. Class D airspace, known as Delta airspace, is airspace around some of the smallest towered airports in the United States. Class D is depicted on the sectional chart and the TAC charts with a dashed line. That's the word to remember, a dashed blue line in this case. Class D airspace is usually in the shape of a cylinder. It's kind of like a soup can, if you can picture it that way. It normally extends from the surface up to 2,500 feet above ground level. Now you may actually see this image on your Remote Pilot Knowledge test as it comes right from the test supplement. Let's look at the Class D airspace over the Elizabeth City Airport. The dashed blue line tells us that it's Class D airspace. The number 25 in the box tells us that the delta extends from the surface to 2,500 feet above ground level. So remember that, 2,500 feet above ground level, or AGL. Now in the center of this Class D airspace is an airport with a control tower. Class D airspace usually has a total diameter of 8 nautical miles, meaning a 4-mile radius on either side from the center of the airport. Now to the right of the airport we see the name, Elizabeth City Regional, and the 3 letters in parentheses, in this case ECG, are the airport's identifier. That's the FAA's official abbreviation, the name for the name of the airport here. The letters CT, here they mean control tower. And the number 120.5, that's the radio frequency pilots use to contact the tower. Now the star next to the frequency tells us that this is a part-time tower. The letter C in the circle identifies the Common Traffic Advisory frequency. The word ASOS, A-S-O-S, that stands for Automated Surface Observation System. That's the frequency for the weather. Some airports have an ATIS, which is also weather. It just stands for Automated Terminal Information System. It also supplies the weather when you tune to that frequency. The number below it is the frequency here. Now, we see the number 11. The number 11 is the airport elevation, and it's in relation to sea level. So it's 11 feet above sea level. The letter L with the asterisks, that means there is pilot-controlled lighting at this airport. Then the number 72 tells us the length of the longest runway. We need to add 2 zeros though to the end to get 7,200 feet. Now, as a UAS pilot, you probably won't be in contact with a control tower. However, if you are operating within Class D airspace, you've obtained authorization or a waiver, you need the permission to do that, you may want to monitor the control tower frequency so that you know when an airplane is taking off or landing. There really is no time frame, by the way, for how long it takes to get permission to operate within Class D airspace. You have to go through the channels, notify the controlling agency. You could use something like Lance as well, but as technology improves, hopefully that system gets faster and faster now. On your knowledge test, though, you may be asked to identify a control tower frequency, an ASOS or an ATIS frequency, or you might get asked about airport elevation. I know for a fact there's questions on there about airport elevation. So you're going to be shown an excerpt from a sectional chart, and the good news is, well, the presentation will be on the computer, so you can zoom in or you'll have it in front of you as well to look. I know these are some tiny numbers here. Now, I want to lastly stress those dimensions here. 2,500 feet above ground level, a diameter of 8 nautical miles, meaning a radius of 4 nautical miles are the usual dimensions of Class D airspace. Some are different, but we've been seeing these dimension questions come up over and over on the knowledge test. This is actually the Class D airspace over Ocala International Airport, our headquarters here. The dashed blue line indicates it's Class D airspace. The blue circle in the middle, that's the airport itself. But look at this. The number 15 is in this box. That tells us the Class D airspace goes from the surface up to 1,500 feet above ground level. That's different than the standard 2,500. Our airport's just a little bit different. We don't have control as high airspace-wise. Ocala has an ATIS we can see though, 128.125, and the field elevation is 90 feet above sea level. The dashed blue line, it's Class D airspace. Remember that. These vertical tick marks, by the way, and the numbers, they're part of the compass rose for a navigation aid called a Very High Omni Range, or VOR for short. VORs are used by manned pilots, not UAS, so they're not going to really impact us too much in the UAS space, but I don't want you confusing a compass rose with the dashed blue lines of the airspace, so I want to point that out. Now, let's recap here. Class B, Class Bravo airspace, solid blue line. Class C, Class Charlie airspace, solid magenta line. Class D, Class Delta airspace, blue dashed line. We need prior permission from the controlling agency to fly in B, C, or D airspace. It can take a day. It can take up to 90 days to get that permission. It depends on what the mission is and the workload of the person handling the request to make that happen. Now, I want you to do some homework here. I want you to get a sectional chart for your area, and I want you to find the Class B, C, and D airspace in your area. You might not have a Class B or Class C airport near you, but you'll most likely have a Class D airport somewhere around. There's plenty of VFR sectional charts on the internet. You don't need to go out and buy one if you can even find a printed one much anymore. You go on some great websites to find those as well. I want you to find the airports in the B, C, and D airspace, their names, their frequencies. They have an ATIS, ASOS, AWOS for weather. What's their field elevation? Work on that homework, then I'll see you in the next lesson. So even as a remote pilot, we have to understand weather, but most importantly, we have to respect weather. Because we don't respect weather, we're going to end up hurting ourselves, hurting somebody else, and just putting us into a lot of liabilities that are super unnecessary. So listen, Remote Pilot 101, now m0a.com, thank you so much for all that you do. Hope you're enjoying the version 3 of the course. If you haven't checked it out already, you can go to m0a.com to learn more about that. Links all down below in the descriptions. I can't wait to read your comments, whether they're on Facebook, on YouTube, or on m0a.com. Have an amazing rest of your day, and most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you.